All right, everybody, welcome to week 22 of Selling Weekly Lottos. Every week I sell what's the equivalent of lottery tickets to gamblers in the stock market by selling options. That's how I make passive income. So we got to do the disclaimers. Number one, all my positions are covered. I have the shares and I have the cash and I don't use margin. Number two, I'm totally okay with getting assigned. If I get my shares called away or if I have to buy the shares, totally cool with me. And then number three, this is not free money. Kind of unpopular to say, but it's investing, and all investing carries the risk of losses. All right, that being said, the winner this week is me. All right, I made $970 using $125,000. That's about a 0.77% yield. Let's take a look at the positions just one at a time. All right, first one, boom. It was Robinhood, 130 puts. So I sold two of them, $308. I sold them for. I bought them back for $54. That's about a $254 gain. All right, and then boom, take two. 270 call, sold that for $1,218, and I let that one expire worthless. So all of that $1,218 was the profit. And then last one, boom, 240 put for take two. So that was a covered strangle. I've talked to you about it before. This one I also got assigned. Okay, so that one was actually a loss of $502 because I had to buy the shares at a cost average of $234.50, but the share price ended up at $232. All right, so I actually had to buy the shares higher than what they were worth, which I interpret as a loss. So technically it's not a loss because you just have to buy the shares, but I interpret it as a loss because I had to buy the shares higher than they were worth. All right, so let's take a look at the charts, what I was going for. Let's start off with Hood. All right, Bazam. So Hood, if you were here last week, I actually sold 500 shares of Hood at $141.50. So I just put an order in to try to get the 200 shares back if I could, at cheaper price. All right, so you can see with that yellow trajectory line, again, if this is a new video for you, if you're here for the first time, this isn't technical analysis. This is just a visual of the parameters of the contract I sold. So nothing here is predicting the future price based on historical trends. So the yellow trajectory line right there, that's how fast the stock needs to fall. It's the approximate rate of the stock needing to fall in order for me to get assigned. So most of the week it was going down all the way until the last day. I was actually at an assignment risk. I was about to get those shares, and then the last few hours of the day it came back and I was able to get the profits and I guess get out of there. I would have liked to have the shares, but I'll take the profit too. All right, let's spend most of the time on the take two covered strangle. All right, Bazam. All right, so here, this has two trajectory lines, all right, because I sold a covered call and a cash secured put at the same time, expiring at different strikes on the same day, all right? So what I really want to happen is to go in the middle, all right? That way I can get both the premiums from the covered call and the cash secured put. But for me, I really like Take Two as a company, so I was totally okay with getting the shares as well, all right? And then if I had to sell them, I would sell them really high, all right? Now, the interesting part about the covered strangle for me is that one of them has to win because the price can't be two prices at the same time at expiration, all right? So you'll notice the break-evens there with the white dotted lines. That's the true break even. Sorry, the call away line, so whether I'd have to sell the shares or I'd have to buy the shares. But you'll notice that the green maximum gain line and then the red loss line are actually lower. And that's because for me, I can actually adjust the line when you sell, if I have to sell at 276, I would actually get the premium from the put contract. So I can add the premium from the put contract to the adjusted price of selling the shares. So I would actually be selling the shares at 281. All right. And then if I had to buy the shares at 234 and a half, I could add the premium from the covered call. So I'd really be buying them at like 228 and a half. Now, this is actually just the way I adjust it for my own metrics. In real accounting and real taxes, the two are separate. So I would still bought for 234 and a half, and the premium from the calls is separate. All right, so this is just the way I interpret it. But yeah, so you can see it was going pretty stable for the whole week, and then it crashed. It was an earnings play. I signed up for the risk. No big deal. I got the shares I wanted, and it actually wasn't a complete loss because it didn't go below that 228. That 228 and a half, that's what I'm losing for me. That's how I interpret it. But really, technically, the account value went down because the 200 shares that I had, they lost value because the shares went down. So really, if you're doing this as a short-term trade, this was a 3,600 account value loss this week because the shares went down. I'm not worried about that because I'm holding Take-Two long-term, at least until Grand Theft Auto 6 is out. And so I'm not worried about the day-to-day unrealized gains, unrealized losses. Like if it actually went up to 269 and I didn't get my calls assigned, I wouldn't have included the gains either, the unrealized gains. I'm only really focused on the income for this particular weekly series. All right, so that's what happened, and I'm cool with getting the shares. I'm happy about it. All right, let's take a look at my metrics. Kapow! All right, way too much going on there. Now it's 22 weeks. If you want to look at this, pause the video because I'm going to minimize it down to just the benchmarks and the metrics. All right, so we'll keep it quick this week. My average, my total return, my total yield are up slightly, but all my averages are slightly down because I made less income this week and I had a lower yield this week. So those are going to be slightly down, but I'm still happy with that. All right. The covered call wasn't assigned, so I have the same amount of assignments on covered calls, but this was my second cash secured put out of 22 weeks to get assigned. All right. The second one out of 25 of them. All right. And this is also the first covered call that I've allowed to expire worthless. I normally buy back all my contracts to close them, but this was the first one I allowed to expire worthless, and that's because I got assigned on the cash secured put. For covered strangles, I usually buy back both contracts at the same time, but because one was assigning, I let the other one expire. All right, so yeah, as far as some closing statements, I think Theta really did his job this week. I was because I went out of the money with my puts, I was buffered. All right. So these were technically bullish plays and the stocks tanked this week and I actually still made income. All right. So think about that. Stocks went down. I was still betting stocks was going up and I still made income from stocks going down, even though I was betting going up. I wasn't shorting. All right, so that's pretty amazing to me because I went out of the money on the puts. There's a certain buffering room. It has to start going down that much in order for me to start losing. All right, and then I got a cushion from the covered calls. So I got that premium from covered calls as well. So I got that income returned to me even though stocks were going down. So pretty good. You know, if I was just a long-term investor, if I had 200 shares of Robinhood and 400 shares of Take-Two, I would have lost $12,000 in unrealized gains this week and not had any income. So I only went down by $3,600 in unrealized gains this week, and I made $970 in income. So that's one of the reasons I think that this theta gang, this option selling strategy, actually beats the market in corrections and in downturns and pullbacks as well. All right, so yeah, let me know if you have any questions in the comments. I'm always open to advice as well. If you've been doing this for a long time and you think there's some things I can do to do better, let me know. Other than that, see you guys next week. Peace.